Yeah. I think it might have been initials, or it might have been one of the other gentlemen's idea for everybody to be dressed up.
That was like that was the first thing that I noticed was.
Yeah, we all were dressed up.
You were all looking nice.
Yeah.
So that was yeah. The whole thing was awesome.
Mm-hmm. I love the contrasts between the four of us, just the differences and the things that make us the similarities, but also the things that make us unique, and we stand apart from one another.
Yeah. Yeah, that is I don't know, that when you get a group like that together, especially a group that's really comfortable like you guys are together, like obviously like it's just the vibe that you guys had the whole time, and everything was just it was just straight,
yeah,
relaxed, yeah, like nothing was off topic, and yeah, you guys, yeah, it was awesome. It was really good. So
yeah, definitely appreciate you for coming by and tuning in for sure.
You bet. I wanted to catch it. I was glad I was able to, especially after that whatever that was last night.
What was it, the Packers game?
Yeah. I hate being a fan.
What?
We actually have had a couple podcasts about it, about the psychology of a fan.
Yes.
And how it's odd that you're so emotionally tied to something you have literally no control over, but it's something that you can trace back to like the earliest points in human history. Like we've had sports forever in games, and it's just it's almost like a part of our DNA at this point that we choose something that we can have no control over to put our emotions into.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's gonna be an interesting show, but we have a intro now, so I'm gonna play that and then we'll jump into it. All right.
Okie dokie.
All right. What's up? Thank you for tapping into some Untapped Keg. I am one of your hosts, RJ Zimmerman, here with a special guest, The Bear Project. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here. Excited to be back for another episode. It was like I just did one like a few weeks ago.
Right? It's like that from like October till, now we're almost at February. It feels like it's only been like 3 weeks, and it's been, obviously it's been longer than that, but it really, you just had your kid, and now your kid is 3 months.
3 months.
You've seen, he's pushing himself up now. Is he rolling over?
Yep.
Sitting on his own?
Just about. This little guy, he is, it's like every single day, he's doing something different and amazing. It's just like, wow. To look at, to look at your child and be like, I had a hand in that. It's a different kind of feeling.
Yeah. Sure. He's starting to show a little bit of his personality too, which is.
Yeah. This man has so much to say. Like, even if it's just baby babble, still, he has so much he wants to say. And like, I can't wait until, he gets older. I'm enjoying the moments when he's little now, but it seems like every time I go pick him up from his grandma's, it's like he got bigger. And I'm like, nah, dude, you need to slow down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's, I look at my youngest right now, who's, he's 2.5, and he's full sentences, constantly full sentences. And it's like, it was not long ago that he was laying on my chest, taking a nap, and he could fit like right on my chest. And now when I pick him up, he doesn't fit there anymore.
No, and then like the kids want to be moving and flailing and kicking and
right. Right.
They hog up he last night after I got finished with the podcast, I went in the room to go lay in my spot on the bed. He was there. Nope.
Oh
Just
yeah.
like, yeah, forget that.
We have a king size bed and I get about 1/10 of it.
Yep.
And then 2/3 of it is the kids. And that's because we know eventually they're going to come into the room, which is fine. Sometimes they sleep by themselves, but for the most part, they do come into our room a little bit, but, hopefully we can get some bunk beds and change that. And then, my wife gets a section too. And then it doesn't matter how much room they have. One of them is always trying to push into me I don't know if it's for the heat or they want the cuddles or what it is, but
burrow themselves into you. Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie. I sleep better when they're cuddling into me. I sleep better.
Yeah. It's almost like they know, like, okay, dad's here. Dad's going to protect us. It's like that protective cuddle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
So, this podcast usually it's Montee Ball and I. Montz is indisposed right now, so he might join us a little bit later, but he may not be able to. So it's gonna be me and Bear. And one thing that I want to get into with you, because obviously our last episode, and if people haven't caught it, you should check it out. We talk a lot about parenting. We talk a lot about being fathers in today's climate, and honestly being fathers of Black boys in this climate. But since then, Twitter Spaces has kind of grown a lot, and you have started the soul space, the Bury Your Soul space. And I would love if you could talk about, one, how you decided to start that, and then two, kind of what it's meant to you that it's kind of grown into the place that it is, that's completely and totally safe, judge-free, and so many people get, it's not just catharsis, but it's healing from it.
Yeah. So I feel like with my streams, it's one thing to communicate with the viewership and have them type to you. It's a totally different ball game when they can talk back.
Yeah.
And you have to actively listen. Like you can't just like let it go through one ear and not the other, because then they're gonna feel like they've probably been feeling their entire life like nobody has listened to them, nobody wants to understand them. And for me, it was just like, I want to see where this goes. Like, am I by any means like a therapist? No, but the space has really become like therapeutic.
Yeah.
To a point where like people feel okay dropping their guard, and if they need to, completely breaking down. I don't know. I think I might have been driving to work. Yeah, I was driving to work one day, and I had seen this thing called Space. I'm like, what the world is this? So I joined this space, and I'm like, oh, this is like a seminar kind of. It's like a seminar without video.
Yeah.
So basically, like it's like an audio seminar. So you mean to tell me like you can hold a space for a specific subject, and then you have like your co-hosts, you have your listeners, and you have your speakers. Like you can really do that? Oh, I wonder what it would be like if we created a space where it was more therapeutic and people could listen more than they actually talk, and then for them to feel comfortable to want to send a request to be a speaker. Because that means you have to speak in front of everybody.
Yeah.
People may not have that you were there. There were people that even said, oh my God, I'm nervous. This is like, I'm speaking in front of a bunch of people. And I'm just like, take your time. There's no rush. We all were like, just take your time. There's no judgment here. You can, if you need to cry it out, do whatever it is you need to do to feel better. And it just like erupted.
It did.
To a point where, we've had almost 40 people in one room talking, tuning in, sharing their story and
deep
listening.
Personal stuff. I mean, it's not just like surface level. It's like, and that's one thing I try to catch it every single time I can. And I've told you this before, like you could have a space like that has a few people sharing, but the way that you steward it and you can feel in your voice, the amount of the lack of judgment, like you can feel it from you, like it's going to be safe. And like I said, it's not just surface level stuff. It's people getting really, really deep.
Yeah. And, I will say, like, even to a certain extent, like I still get like, I still hear the voices from those certain spaces in my head. Like, hearing like Fun Size when she broke down and hearing King when he broke down, it was just like, wow. Like I didn't, me and King have talked like off of Twitch and spaces. And we were talking about, the incident that he spoke on in his space. And I thought he was doing okay until that space. That I feel like that space provided him or gave him the ability to let his guard down and be him. And if he wasn't healed from it, let it out. And like he literally, you could hear the cracks in his voice. And then he went into full breakdown. And I was like, oh, this is not just like a thing. This is almost becoming like innate. This is like just an organic thing that's happening in these spaces. So I kept it going. And it just seems like so many people have gravitated to it and so many people are okay with speaking. That's the part that I love. Like some people, chill back and they listen and they hear other people's stories. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I feel good enough. I feel comfortable enough. I want to share my story.
Yeah. And that's, one thing Jenny brings it up in chat. And I completely agree. I was going to bring this up that, group therapy it's a real and powerful thing. I mean, that's what AA, NA, all of the anonymouses is group therapy. Peer-to-peer support is sometimes just as powerful as being a therapist. So just being able to provide that space, and yes, like you need to combine it because sometimes you need the professional and not just opinion, but the steps that you need to go through to heal. But we talked last week with Jessica Leahy about you got to name it to tame it, right?
Yeah.
And I brought up, it's almost like saying the demon's name, like talking about it out loud. It does activate it in your brain so that you can start to process even more. Because last time we talked about toxic masculinity, right? And I mean, we still talk about it because it's a real thing and it's something that we grew up with, and I struggle with it every day with what I learned, what I still is to this day, a core being inside of me is toxic masculinity. I still retreat into it sometimes, and it's not a conscious thing. Like I consciously try to get better at it, but I was just raised, you don't show emotion unless it's anger. You don't show emotion. Like even happiness, you have to muffle that happiness because it might make somebody feel bad, right? To create that safe space for people to just talk about it. And that's just, it's a wonderful thing. And the fact that you're doing it, like I can't praise it enough, like what you're doing out there. It's so great.
Yeah. And I mean, I encourage others to do the same thing. It's kind of like, Jenny said, we're peers and we could use our experiences and our perspectives to support others. Like, how many people felt the exact same way you felt but can't say it. They can't put it in words.
Right.
Maybe they may be too engulfed in the situation. Their emotions might be getting the best of them. So at that point, all you see is red or black. So you can't really find the time to hone in on what's exactly bothering you and put it into words. So to go to a space where, somebody is able to put so eloquently what you can't, you don't have to feel the judgment from that.
Yeah.
It's the best thing in the world.
And you hear like you said, you hear 2 or 3 people sharing their stories, and all of a sudden you realize, because I said this last night, like a lot of times we compare our stresses. Like when you bring up something that you're feeling and somebody says, "Oh, first world problem." Well, what does that mean to you? That means that's not just belittling your stress. It's telling you that you shouldn't have it, right?
Yeah, that's a little like demeaning.
Yeah. So a lot of people we look at other people's stress and we're like, oh, I shouldn't have this or be feeling the amount of stress that I am over this one event because there's other people dealing with worse. All you can deal with is what's around you, like yourself, what you can affect. That's it. That's all the stress that we know. We don't know the stress that other people are under. We don't know the stress of everything else. And we can't affect their stress for them. We can just deal with what's going on in ours. And it's the same thing like vacations, which I would consider good stress, right? It's stressful vacations coming up and while you're in them a little bit, because as soon as you get there, there's a little bit of a countdown timer that's going on. Yeah. So, and you start to feel it a little bit. Like stress doesn't always have to be bad. It can, the good things cause stress too. And I think we lose sight of that, but
yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah. And you're right. As soon as you get on vacation, there is like a little countdown timer, like, oh God, this vacation isn't infinite. At some point it's going to end.
Yeah.
So you try to make the best out of the time that you have. And yeah, that can be a little stressful too, because there's some things you want to be able to do and you can't because you don't have enough time to.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just best for people to make the best out of the time that they have. Things that you can't fit in, it's okay. I mean, I'm not gonna say, it's not the end of the world, but I understand. I totally understand. Like, oh man, I wanted to go to that amusement park. It does kind of weigh you down. So I would never just be like, oh well, get over it. No, I totally understand, because you want to do certain things on your vacation, and sometimes you're just not able to because time is so short. And it seems like when you're working, it drags. When you're not, it's flying.
Yep.
It's almost like you don't have enough time to like have fun, but work just goes absurdly slow. So I do think like people trying to belittle or minimize somebody else's stress, I think that's not good.
I think we all get caught up in it though, right? Like it's tough. It's tough to, and I mean, I'm just speaking about this as two men because that's all I can speak about. And I know it also happens to women, but when people say, it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to talk about it and let it out, but they say that at face value, and as soon as you start to do it, there's a little bit of backlash. Have you noticed that a little bit?
Yes, I have. And I don't. I mean, I've fallen victim to that, when I was younger, because I didn't know any better. But now, being at the age that I am now, and not only being at the age I am now, but having the maturity, being at the right maturity level, for me, it is okay to not be okay. And it is okay to talk about it, because as soon as you start talking about it, it gets easier. It gets a little easier to deal with. It gets a little easier to manage, because like I said in the podcast last night, you know how many people wouldn't have walked off the edge if somebody just listened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes people don't want a response. Sometimes people just need you to listen. That's it. But some people don't want to listen. They just want their turn to talk. And it's not always about that.
There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, Montee talks a lot about he went to some mindfulness training, and it was kind of like a getaway. There was a few hours a day, and they made him sit for I think 2 hours and just listen to somebody talk to practice active listening skills, and that's something we can all benefit from. I mean, I know when I'm in discussions with some people, like my spouse, sometimes I'm not actually listening to the words. I'm trying to wait for a moment to get my point across. Yeah. And that just makes things worse because I didn't actually listen to what was being said. And that's just one point where I could benefit from that. That's not even talking about my friends and the thing is, we have to listen for little cues sometimes because people they'll leave a little opening for you to ask about something. And if you aren't paying attention, you could skip right past it. Like I'm really guilty of that sometimes. I don't notice all the social cues sometimes. I'm just
and
aloof.
Active listening is very important because that could be the one thing that saves you guys from that can make the difference between a talk and a fight.
Yes.
When somebody feels like the other person is not listening, at this point now defenses are up. Now emotions are running high. Now adrenaline is going. And at that point, nobody wants to hear anything. So now we're at a lost cause because you're not going to be willing to hear me. I'm not going to want to hear you because you don't want to hear me. And it's overall destructive.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, we need to normalize active listening. And not only that, but learning that when an argument gets too heated, take a step back. Even if you feel wronged, if you feel disrespected, regardless, take a step back and let cooler heads prevail, because in the midst of it, you could say something and it could totally change everything.
Yep.
And you can't take it back. It's out there now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to normalize active listening and also knowing when to not necessarily bite our tongue, but conceal it.
It's okay to walk away for an hour or two and come back to it.
Totally fine.
That's what I honestly have started doing. Like, so when growing up, I had a really, really bad temper. I mean, like, and it was by a lot, little things, big things, it didn't matter. My temper basically went to one level. And so one thing that I have done to not allow it to get there is I will sit there and I will take a beating or whatever, and I won't respond. Like, if I am at a point where I know that it's just straight anger, I will walk away. And sometimes it'll be a day before I come back to it. But like, and sometimes it drives people crazy, especially at work. Like, it would drive people that I worked with just absolutely up a wall because, I would let them sit there and berate me, and then I'd come back the next day and I'd talk about that situation and what happened and why, like, we can't let that happen again. Yeah. And they would be, well, why couldn't we talk about it in the moment? It's like, because there was no talking. It was literally going to be just a screaming match. And it doesn't happen every time, sometimes I still lose my cool, but that's the only way that I've been able to get past this, like, this really bad anger that I have. So, and even like as a parent with my kids, I have to walk away for 10 minutes sometimes. They don't know that they're being disrespectful. They don't know what respectful is yet. They're 4 and 2. So
yeah. So I mean, it's for them, it's too early for them to, realize that. So I think parents need to normalize that whenever you are feeling overwhelmed, go, hey, take a step back for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If you gotta listen, if you gotta hear them cry, but you need time to reset yourself so you don't go off in the moment just because you might be frustrated because they may be crying and they won't stop crying or whatever the case may be. You just need to take time for yourself and reset. I know for me, I have those moments where, I lose my cool. Now, I don't um I don't shut down because I feel like shutting down. I mean, don't get me wrong. For some of us, shutting down is a way, I guess, to let the other person know that we're hurt. But shutting down can also be destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, I'll communicate that with my partner, like, hey, um, I'm not okay, and I don't want to say anything that could change how you look at me because I'm saying it out of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes in anger, you say things that you don't mean, and you can't take it back once you let it out. So I'm just like, you know what? Now let me take a step back. I'll take a breather, and we'll come back and we'll talk. I mean, we've had our moments where it's been like explosive on both sides, and we'll take some time.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a day or two that we don't really speak on the topic, but her and I both are firm believers, and even though I'm mad at you, I'm still gonna let you know I love you. You may get on my nerves. I might feel like putting you through a wall. Still love you. That that won't change unless you do something that's like absolutely vile and just dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, taking those minutes to just reset yourself and put yourself in a more calm space. Yeah, I think people should. I think people should do that. And Moon Man said, that's how we end up ignoring problems and leaving people to deal with trauma alone. I mean, you can't run from it. You can't hide from it. Like eventually it's going to catch up to you. You got to deal with it.
Right. And that is the thing. Sometimes we need to figure out why did that make me angry? Like, because it's true.
That part.
Like, and that's why I have to like completely not allow myself to react to it and just take it all in. And because if I react to it, like you said, it's going to create an issue. And it, when I was growing up, there was one time, my friends, they would always come over and hang out in like our basement. We had like a foosball table, ping pong table, like video games. And then we'd go to practice because we had like an hour and a half between school and practice. And so they made me so mad, I kicked everybody out. I said, I just started yelling, "Get the F out of my house," like at the top of my lungs. And they looked at me like I was joking. And then they saw the look on my face and they knew it. And so there's a few people that still bring it up to this day, but it was a bunch of little things. It was it was teenage stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I try to just remove myself now, like not remove completely, but wait before I respond to figure out, okay, why am I upset? Am I upset because I'm embarrassed? Am I upset because it's true? Am I upset because, and honestly, most of the time it is pride.
Yeah. Yeah. Pride,
it's ego.
Yeah. Pride and ego will definitely have you responding in ways that you normally wouldn't. And that's why, like you said, that's why you got to sit there and take the beating, even if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Because, your partner or your spouse isn't coming to you for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
this is not something that they're making up in their head. And I can't stand when people do that, to try to make it seem like, you're crazy or you're making this up. No, this is how I feel. I wouldn't be feeling this way if this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So to try to make it seem like, I'm crazy or I'm living in some, like, I'm gonna say it, gaslighting.
Yeah.
Or manipulating the situation to, like I said, to make me question and doubt myself. No. Mm-mm. I know what I feel, and I'm not moving on that. I'm not. But, before I say anything that, that could be considered a low blow or, one of those, yeah, that one hurt. Yeah, I'm gonna take a step back and reassess, why am I feeling this way? Like you said, am I feeling this way because I'm embarrassed? Am I feeling this way because it's true? Am I feeling this way because, this person is totally wrong? It could be a million things, but we do have to take a step back and reassess our own feelings.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we as people, we're so quick to point the blame at the other person, but slow to hold ourselves accountable for things we may have done that may have brought our partner or our spouse to this point.
And that's important too, is, nothing happens in a vacuum.
Nope.
There's context for everything. And
yes.
So when you hear people's actions and being like, well, I wouldn't have acted that way. Well, and this has to do with the judgment that you talked about too. That tweet that you put out, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, about people who judge others? Like,
oh yeah,
you literally don't know the context for anything that happened. No. So with no information except for the outcomes, you're saying, oh yeah, I would have done that. There's no way I'd have done that. Like, oh, come on. Yeah.
Everybody says what they would have done until it happens to them.
Right. And, that's a lot of times, like, I play out scenarios and scripts in my head or whatever, but it's like, until it happens, you don't know for sure what's going to happen, how you'll react.
Exactly.
A lot of people, like, at work, like, when, and this is a true story. My oldest, the first time he got, like, actually sick, like, it was like we went to the ER for a nebulizer because he had asthma. Well, yeah, we think he does have asthma, but it was like RSV, I think, at the time.
Oh, okay.
And he got it from daycare. Well, that's the first time as a parent you have been, dealing with a sick child. So I was, like, tired, going to work, like, I overlooked something, made a poor judgment, like, and it ended up being like 15, 20 minutes more work because of it. It wasn't dangerous or anything like that, but, and then, like, somebody went off on me and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, my kid's at home, my kid's sick. Like, I didn't get any sleep. And they come back with, well, I'm buying a house right now. You think that I don't have stress? We all have stress in our life. And I'm like, hold on, what? Like,
yeah, that's really ignorant to say.
I'm not making this up. Like, we took my kid to the ER the first time he's sick. Like, I didn't sleep at all. Sorry, we had to work for 15 minutes more, but that's it. We had to work for 15 minutes more. Nobody was put in danger or anything.
And then, my question is, did that person that went off on you, do they have kids?
Nope.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea.
And it was one of those people that there's no possible way to make them happy. That you could do something the same way that they did it, the same amount of time, and they tell you did it slow, you messed this up, all this stuff. It was one of those kinds of people, but it was like, if everything wasn't perfect, they weren't happy. And it's like, nothing's going to be perfect because we're a team working together. Like, somebody's going to mess something up. You got to roll with the punches. Like, that's part of life. Rolling with the punches. Rolling going with the flow a little bit. You can't just be a solid rod because eventually you're going to snap.
Yeah.
And that's something that to remember as well about, not just remembering when people took your actions out of context, like put yourself in those shoes and just take a breath, roll with it, because it's going to be okay for the most part, unless they put you in danger, obviously.
Yeah. Then that's a different story. I mean, I've had instances where, I might have I've had a bad day and people have gone off on me and I'm just like, wait, what? And then I'm asking them, well, do you have any idea what I've been going through today? Well, it doesn't matter. I have stress too. Okay, but if the roles were reversed, would you want me to minimize your stress?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't want me to. You would feel like I'm disrespecting you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what you deal with. And simply because I don't know, that doesn't make it any less serious for you. It's still serious for you. So, if you, my coworker or a team member or whatever the case may be, just from me being an empath, just taking that in, I'm going to feel exactly what you feel, even if I'm not going through it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to minimize that. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it may be minute or minuscule to me. That doesn't make it any less serious for you. It's still serious. So I have to look at it and come with the approach as if, okay, this is something real. Something's going on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think people just don't do that because they're so busy. And we've all done it. Sometimes we've been so engulfed in our own world that we miss that part. Everybody is going through something, and if you have the ability to remove yourself from the equation and try to look at it from their point, you'd be better.
Part of growing, right? Growing as a person, getting to that point, understanding that everybody has things in life. Like, life doesn't stand still, period.
Nope. Sure doesn't.
And sometimes we wish it would, but it doesn't. And
right.
Looking at our kids, that's a good example of it. As much as we'd like it to slow down, like, before I know it, my oldest is going to be going to high school and I'm going to be like, what happened to my life? And that's one thing, like, with, my sobriety, my recovery, and honestly where I was as a person, like, I stopped growing. I stopped looking to grow. I was okay with where I was because I was bringing home more money than I had bills. I enjoyed my job enough, but, like, I kind of felt like, is this it? Is this all there is? I'm just going to do this for 40 years and be done. And then I was just okay with not really growing as a person. And that included, like, my sobriety. I was just like, I didn't drink. It was just, that's what it was. But I never looked into why did I abuse alcohol like that? Why was alcohol so important, like, why was it important every time I had alcohol to shut down?
Yeah.
And as soon as I started to look at that, it's like, wait a second, like, there's more. And it started slowly, and then it started to pick up steam with me. Like, I've read a lot of books the past couple of months. Like, I'm looking at my emotions. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm looking at why sometimes I shut down when certain events happen. Why is that? Well, maybe it's something from my childhood, right? That puts me back there. But, like, I didn't look at any of this stuff like 5 years ago, even 2.5 years ago. Like, it takes time to grow, and it's not always going to be at the same rate, but, just taking those steps and trying goes such a long way for where you're going to be at in your life.
Yes. I totally agree. When you actively take the steps, well, first admitting that there is in fact a problem,
Right.
probably the hardest step,
It is. It
because
is.
you don't want to admit something's wrong, because when you admit something's wrong, you feel like, oh, I'm not I'm not perfect. No, you're not supposed to be.
Right.
But whatever you keep locked inside, you won't heal from. You won't heal from it. It'll just be a crutch. Um it'll be a trigger. It'll be a some people might even see it and take advantage of it, because they know that's a button to push. So it takes time. You have to get to a point where where you've grown and you've understood, okay, hey, you know, these are my triggers. How can I actively work on not being triggered by these things? And they say, they say we need to normalize not looking at things that trigger us. It's everywhere.
Right.
Certain things will trigger you, but in order to not be triggered by those things, sometimes you just don't look at it, because then you'll find yourself going back into that space, and you know how that road ends. You spend all this time trying to, improve. Why take 20 steps forward to go 30 steps back? No. Mm-mm. So we admitting that there's a problem is the hardest part, because nobody wants to admit it. Like you said, it's a pride and the ego. We don't want to admit to ourselves that something's off.
Yeah. Right. And the thing is, if you admit that, you're admitting weakness. But the thing that we don't, I brought this up before, the strength in admitting that,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's the hardest thing to do. Like, when I quit drinking, I had multiple people tell me in not very nice words that I was an alcoholic, right? And so that became a term that, fine, you think I'm an alcoholic? And those are the nights I drank the most and made the dumbest decisions. And I'm surprised I'm here alive today. That was.
Hey man, big shout out to you for getting through that and becoming better as you came out of it. Most people won't even do that. Some people will continue to use the alcohol for whatever means to get them through. And you took your life by the horns and you said, no, gonna be better.
And that's all we can do, right? Is try to be better. And I thank you. I appreciate that. That's something I'm trying to get better at, is taking compliments. And because it used to be, and I still am this a little bit, don't think that I'm not, but I would deflect that, right? I would just take that and shove it back like, oh, thanks, but it was so-and-so and all this. And trying to do better, just saying, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And
yeah, I mean, it's people, it's, we're actively watching you take the steps to be better. So to watch, to be there and watch somebody take these steps, and you get knocked back a little bit, but you get up and you keep going forward. And you have your moments on your path, on your journey, where you feel like you won't see the light, but then here it comes and you've made it. And even though you've made it, you're still taking steps. So that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I love to see people make it out of that type of adversity, because I mean, you know, some people probably looked at your situation, he ain't gonna make it out. He won't. He'll fall. He'll be just like the rest of them. No, you chose to not fall to that stereotype. and you made it out. Now you got, you got a wife and you got kids now who also look to you as a pillar and a beacon of strength, because you know uh I feel one day I'm gonna have to tell my son about what happened to his grandfather.
Yeah.
That's not gonna be a pretty story. It won't be.
Mm-mm.
But if I let him know what it did to me and how I became better from it, it'll show him that, yeah, daddy's human, but daddy's strong. He can still get through it. So can I. I'm gonna tell him, you don't have to do it by yourself, because you don't. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it by yourself at all.
Mm-hmm.
You have a village, when you get old enough, you'll be able, I said it in the podcast, you'll be able to tell the difference between who's golden and who's gold plated. There's a difference. There's a difference between the two.
That's really good. I like that. That's awesome. That's that's something that I thought a lot about, because my dad, he's never said it, but so he's been sober for 30 some years, and I asked if he would call himself an alcoholic. He said, no, I just don't drink. But his dad was also an alcoholic, and I'm sure his dad was as well. Like, that was all there was for entertainment, really. So explaining to my kids, and when we had Jessica Leahy on, who's also in recovery and sobriety and is an alcoholic, but she specializes in, she's a teacher. She's wrote books on raising kids, especially around substance use and like how we can help them. And one of the things is telling your story, but don't glamorize it, right? Leave out the things that were fun. Like, because if you make it fun, if you make it like Van Wilder or The Hangover,
it's a fairy tale.
Yes, like that's what and I'm not saying my dad did this, because he didn't, but like the movies and hearing other people's stories at school, but like having honest conversations. And honestly, I grew up around going to bars. All I had to do was look around to see that alcohol didn't do that for you. Right. But, being able to have honest conversations with our kids and allowing them to talk to us when they're ready. Sometimes we do have to pry at the door a little bit to open it and then let them walk the rest of the way through. But dude, ending that generational.
Yes, that curse.
Yes. That's what I want to do. I want to put the wall up. I want to be the one to block it from reaching my two. And that's what I try to do every day.
Yeah, I mean, when he gets older, I would love to do a podcast with him.
That
when he's ready.
Yeah.
When he's ready to do it and he feels like, Dad, I have questions. Okay, son. Let's have a podcast about it. Not to publicize it, but because, well, the one thing, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. Same.
But there might be other fathers in the viewership who does.
Right.
So, son, if you feel like, if you're struggling in a certain area and I don't have the answers, you have a village. You have people in your corner that can help you navigate through whatever it is that you're feeling. And just, I want to make him comfortable early with reading the room and understanding who to be vulnerable to. Can't be vulnerable to everybody, because some people see that vulnerability as weakness or as a point to take advantage of.
Yes.
So yeah, you definitely have to, be very careful, like, again, of who is gold and who is gold plated. Gold plated, after a while, they don't hold as much value. Somebody that's gold, their value increases.
Mm-hmm.
Like, over time. And what that means is your relationship with them will increase in value over time. People who have your best interests at heart. Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what he shares.
That's
I'm
awesome.
not gonna judge him. I'm not gonna judge him at all. The same energy that I share with strangers, with you guys, I'm gonna share it with him. Oh, son, if you need to cry, cry. It's totally okay. Don't ever feel like you have to you gotta be tough. In certain situations, yes. Every situation, no. When it hurts, it hurts. I don't want you to feel like you can't be you. Oh, I'm not gonna reprimand you for shedding tears. No.
Absolutely.
Guess what? Daddy did the same thing when he was young. When I was your age once.
And you know, that's it's important to recognize this, right? I love that you already planned this out. One thing to remember that, you know, Moon Man just said is they're already actively listening to you, and I just want you to know that that is true. Even when you think they're not listening, they are paying close attention to you. Like, you know, last time that we were on a podcast together, my youngest turned the internet off. Like,
yeah,
they watch what you do, where you go, and they're like, "Ooh, I'm going to do that next." Like, you know, my oldest, sometimes I will say I'll ask a question and he'll like skirt around it, and I'll be like, "No, it's a yes or no question. You either answer yes or you answer no," and he'll take that and he'll use it against me or say words.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah,
I remember you said that. Yeah. These kids are a lot more in tune than we think.
Oh yeah. So it's not like always respect their intelligence is like my number one tip. And then like it's just be open to where it's going to take you, because they let you know what they like to do. And no matter what, I want to make sure my kids are okay with being themselves, because I always felt like I had to be somebody else to be accepted, and I do not want that for them, right?
No. No.
I mean, that is part of the reason that I drank so much.
And then, you know, the biggest thing I want to teach my son is to love everyone, no matter belief, religion, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation. Regardless.
Yep.
None of that matters. What matters is the bond between you guys and how they treat you and how you treat them.
Yes.
Nobody got time to be worrying about, oh God, you know, they're part of the you know, lately it's been like a cool thing to throw darts at the LGBTQ. Man, so what? Are they treating you bad? No.
And that's the thing.
Problem.
How does it affect you?
Yes. If it doesn't affect you on a daily basis, what's the point? No. Some of the coolest people I know are part of that community. And they've shown me nothing but love and respect. So why would I even conjure up in my brain a plan to never? Like, and it's a shame. It's a shame that you can't be you in this world without somebody like almost slandering you for it. Like you're a bad person because you identify as non-binary. So what?
It's that culture of everybody tries to put you in a box, right?
Yes.
I want to give them a box. You put yourself into it. And you know, if you want to take things out because you're done with it, go for it. Right?
Regardless of what these people identify themselves as, the thing that we all have in common, we're all people. Are we not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you know, I had two little boys, and my oldest, I didn't care that the Minky was pink. Like, it came in a 2-pack. I bought the 2-pack. He stopped crying. It's a mute button. Put the binky in. Like, but there were people, well, aren't you a little worried about giving your baby a pink binky? It's a color.
No.
What is there to worry about?
People put negative connotations on everything. Like the one trend that was going around. Oh, a little kid, a boy wanted a kitchen set. So if he wants a kitchen set, that makes him feminine.
I saw that.
What? Are you crazy? Like, do you hear yourself when you're saying that?
Yeah.
Cooking is a necessary skill. It's a survival skill. So you mean to tell me your son, you want to call your son feminine because he wants to learn how to survive? You're crazy.
I want to get my kids an easy bake oven because listen, I want those brownies. All right. That's my brother and I use the easy bake oven more than my sister did.
Yes. I've used it.
Absolutely.
What does that mean? It means nothing.
No, literally.
At the end of the day, I can be okay with Mama Bear not cooking and I can make something and she can take a load off because she's had a long day. It shouldn't have, I don't know. I just feel like the whole gender role thing. I mean,
that's what we put on it.
Yeah, it shouldn't have to
we created it. It's just like when we had our second, I changed his first diaper, right? In the hospital. I put his first diaper on. And the nurse goes, wow, you did that really well. You must have changed a lot of diapers. And I looked at her, I'm like, you do see my other kid right there, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, I changed his diapers a lot. It's not just a mother thing. Like, I was up with him too. Like,
I'm so glad you said that because it does seem like the fathers almost get ignored.
Yeah.
And it's not to, and I don't want to like, I don't want to say anything like bad about the women because, the whole having a soul inside of you, creating, your body being a space for this human, this little soul to like, come to be is something that we as men will never understand. No. And I can accept that and I'm totally fine with that. Fathers are important too. Hey, with sons are going to look at their mother as the example of how they should receive love. Sons are going to look at us for strength and leadership and the example as, okay, however I love his mom, that's how I should love women. Same with daughters. Daughters are going to use their mom to be the example of who they should be as women. Dads are going to be that, okay, this is what I want my boyfriend to be like. This is what I want my husband to be like daddy. I want him to be strong and protect me like daddy. Fathers are important.
Yep.
And simply because we don't give birth, we don't go through the whole process, the hormonal changes, the contractions and everything else, that shouldn't diminish how important we are. Now, what does suck is that the deadbeats, the ones that make the choice to not be there in their children's lives, they get so much credit, while the fathers who are busting their tails, some of us are doing it by ourselves. Why? Because you may have some moms out here who are a little vindictive. They don't get that credit.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah. It's to a point where, have you ever seen a father say happy Mother's Day to me on Mother's Day? No. But you see some women, happy Father's Day to me on Father's Day. Yeah, you play both roles, but you're not a man. You cannot teach your son what it means to have that rugged exterior. I love my mother to death, but she softened up the rough edges. She gave me emotion. She gave me the ability to feel. I'll never take that from her. Never. It was the most beautiful thing I ever got. But my father told me how to fish. My father told me that a man that don't work don't eat. My father told me that. So I just feel like, fathers should be appreciated too. Fathers have it hard. It is not easy.
And don't look at it as, it's funny because, like you said, the deadbeats, like people disrespect, but then when you're there and active, it's, oh, that's what you should be doing. Okay. But yes, but at the same time, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, yes, that's very true. Like, sometimes, I don't know. It's sometimes, yes, it is easy to be overlooked as a man. And we talked about that too with mental health. And
yes,
we just need to be better to one another, period.
One another. Yeah. I mean, it's bad on both sides, I say this all the time, with the ladies, and I get it. You should absolutely feel confident in your body. You should. Absolutely. I'm not sitting here telling, no, if you're comfortable with how your body looks, I support it. But I don't think, I don't think that I don't think some of the ladies have to show everything. You don't have to.
Right.
If you choose to, I mean, that's ultimately it is your choice. But I feel like, some of the ladies are just so much more like amazing than just their body parts. Like their soul is something that, is rare. To have, to know women that are extremely intelligent. Oh my God, man. To an extent, even like Jenny, to have to know someone who holds you accountable for how are you really feeling.
Yes.
Find a word.
Here, you can't think of them. Here's 30 of them. Pick one.
Here you go. I got a mug for you.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Absolutely. That's it's you're finding the word that your brain can't pick out. That's what it is. Finding the words that your brain can't. So
like when it's things like that, it's an amazing thing. Now, we had I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. We had a man who thought it was okay to voice his opinion about, the women, and saying that the boobs are taking away the viewership and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I just ignore that stuff.
Yeah, I think that was very idiotic to say. At the end of the day, as long as it doesn't affect your day-to-day, why does it matter? That's what they do. That's what their viewership loves from them. So it's not taken away from you. Clearly, you aren't doing something right.
Right? Like, listen, that's not your audience. There's enough people in this world for everybody, right? That you are looking at the wrong things if that's what you think.
You know how many men would do it if they could get away with it?
Right?
Maybe that's why they feel upset.
Right.
They can't do it. They can't get away with it. Okay? Women can get away with it. It is what it is. You either respect it, or if it's not your content, your kind of content, keep it moving. That's the beautiful thing about preference. It is a choice. You actively choose what content you want to consume. If hot tubs and all that ain't your forte, cool. Move out the way.
Yeah. And that's people wanting to be mad at someone, so they just pick whatever they can.
Yes. It's insane. And
it goes back to you can only control what's around you, right? And goes back to that earlier.
Yes.
Well, our conversation. So as we wrap this up, is there something that you'd like to leave people with for, I mean, you got anything coming up, or you got anything on top of mind that you'd like to?
So I think later tonight after I do my stream, I'm gonna hold another space. It's been a little minute, and I want to hold a space and talk about uh the darkest moment in your life. Not only just the darkest moment, how did you get through it? People always want to talk about, oh my God, that moment was so dark, but what did you do to get through it? Even if it was bad stuff. Sometimes in our darkest moment, we don't make the best decisions. But when did you figure out, hey, that wasn't the greatest decision. Let me go back to the drawing board and find a better way. And how did you get here now? And what would your advice be to somebody who's going through a dark moment? Oh,
this is my youngest.
Hey.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
That's important because, like you said, sometimes we hold on to guilt for how we acted during things, right? Or, I mean, just giving people steps, because there's going to be more. There's going to be more that happens. There's going to be something that comes up, and how are we going to be able to do it? I mean, better than last time, or different, and not fall into the same, but being honest about it.
Yeah, we have a generation after us that we have to mold and teach. These spaces in my stream, and what the spaces and the bare your soul aspect and the deeply rooted aspects, what they represent. That's the legacy I'm leaving behind for him. That's the legacy I'm leaving behind for him.
And that's
So
awesome.
when my time on this plane of this realm of existence is gone, he can have something he can have an example to follow. Like, oh, Dad was really into this. What is this about? What is mental health? Oh, I can't wait to have a podcast with him when he asks me that. Dad, what's mental health? Well, son, I'm glad you asked.
Right?
Daddy.
Yes, child. Yes, we can. Go turn it on.
Okay.
So, we have a younger generation to teach. And not only that, but we are still works in progress.
And that's important to teach our kids, to teach that one right there. I am not perfect, and I'm willing to say that. And I want them to know that I am not.
Yeah.
And
therapy does not mean you're messed up.
No.
It doesn't. I am actively taking steps to go to therapy. To get rid of certain aspects of anger that's weighing on my soul, because if I don't get rid of them, I'm going to go back to the person I used to be, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, I mean, holding these spaces is, for me, it's a lifesaver, because I get the knowledge and I get the perspective of other people, and I get to open my mind, because my opinion is my opinion. It's not the end all be all. You take perspectives from everyone and you apply it. And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about perspective. Yours isn't it. It's a billion people on this planet. You can learn different things from everybody.
Absolutely.
You have to be willing to do it. You can't be willfully ignorant. No.
Yeah, and I'm starting, and I learned this from Waba too. So like, I'm starting to hopefully find a therapist. Like, Monday is my appointment. I do too. Like, shout out to go to Waba Streams on Twitch.
Shout out Waba Streams, man.
They are a wonderful person, and they said when they came on, don't be afraid to move on from a therapist, because not every that therapist may not be for you. Like, not everyone needs the same therapist. And I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't have a couple of therapists that worked for me.
Sometimes the therapists don't get it.
Yes. And that's okay. It's okay. Right? So that's important. That's important to remember. And that's something that I need to remember. So, and I have not been this excited appointments than I am like going through this process to get one, because
Same here.
My 2022 resolution was growth, period. That's it. I left it open-ended because I don't know how much, but I am going to take steps and I am going to grow. And I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I know that I'm going to grow. And that's different from what it's been in the past. And it's not material. And it's not,
absolutely.
It's not just one aspect. It's everything. I just want to grow. Yes.
Every aspect. I feel like in 2022, we all should take active steps in improving every aspect of our health, not just mental, but physical. What about spiritual? What about emotional? Take care of yourself. That
Absolutely.
means completely, not just in one aspect. So, but that's what I would like to leave with people.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So if people want to follow you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, the Bear Project _. You can find me on Instagram, the Bear Project _ Twitch, the Bear Project _ I even did this, they got like this gaming page called Expand.
Okay.
The Bear Project _ Facebook, you can find me by my name, Brandon Turner. I think that should be it. Yeah, that's all my socials. Oh, YouTube, the Bear Project as well, _ And yeah, I really plan on taking the spaces and the podcast on stream. I plan on like really diving deep and trying to uncover, the more deeply, pun intended, the more deeply rooted aspects of people, because I'm tired of people being approached on a surface level. I'm not just gonna identify people as streamers. They're people who stream.
Right.
So
I appreciate that. I'm going to make every single one I can. And, make sure you go follow the Bear Project _ Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. Obviously, you can see wonderful person putting out amazing content, making the world a better place. We are Untapped Keg. Usually it's me, Montee Ball. Find Monts on Twitter at MonteeBall28. Find me on Twitter at It's Trickster. You can go through my tweets last night and watch my heartbreak in real time. It's like every year I know it's coming, and it still feels like the first time. But find us at Untapped Keg everywhere.
Yes.
Next month in February, I want to have a psychologist on who specializes in fan mentality, because I really think that we need to talk about it. So
I want to do a podcast with like a psychologist and talk about, trauma and how, and paying attention to like the certain cues from people as to, how their trauma, affects them throughout their entire life. Because I think a lot of people are very oblivious to the fact that, the trauma and the PTSD is real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people still feel these things. Some people are sensitive to intimacy because of something that may have happened to them in their past. So I would love to do something like that, to bring like a psychologist on, or a therapist, like a licensed therapist, licensed psychologist, and like challenge myself and them
to think about.
They have like book knowledge in other ways. I have what I've seen.
Yeah. So
to see the book versus your own eyes,
that would be amazing. I really want to try to get that. That would be awesome. Maybe we could try to help you out with that. So
let me know, man. I definitely want to try that out.
let's talk after this, and we'll see if we can help you out with that. But hey, everybody, let's have a good week. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this show. This was fun. This was
as always
deep again. I enjoy talking to you every time. So
likewise, man.
And let's try to be better tomorrow than we were today. Because at least if we don't make it, we tried. That's all we can do is try. Have a good week, everybody.
Mommy, Daddy.